In Book VII of Plato's Republic, a conversation about education and justice becomes a powerful journey from darkness toward understanding. Through the allegory of the cave, Plato asks what it means to mistake appearances for truth and what courage is required to turn the soul toward knowledge. The story connects personal education with public responsibility, suggesting that real wisdom should eventually guide the way people live together. The prisoners have lived underground since childhood, chained so that they can look only at the wall before them. Behind them, a fire and passing objects create shadows, while echoes make the shadows seem to speak. Because the prisoners have never seen anything else, they believe these images are the whole of reality. Their world is limited not only by chains, but also by the habits of perception. What they call knowledge is built from repeated appearances rather than direct understanding. To the prisoners, the shadows are not obvious falsehoods. They are the only truth they know. They name the images, predict their order, and measure their understanding through what appears on the wall. The allegory suggests that ignorance can feel comfortable when it is familiar. A person may defend an illusion simply because every experience has been organized around it. The familiar can seem safer than the difficult work of questioning what one has always believed. When one prisoner is released, the first movement toward freedom is painful. Standing, turning, and looking toward the fire hurt his body and confuse his mind. He cannot immediately accept that the shadows he trusted were less real than the objects now before him. Education, therefore, is not the simple filling of an empty mind. It is a difficult reorientation of the whole person, requiring the learner to change direction and endure the discomfort of discovering that earlier certainty was incomplete. The prisoner is dragged up the steep path and gradually learns to see the upper world. At first he recognizes shadows, then reflections in water, then real objects, the moon, the stars, and finally the sun itself. His sight must be trained step by step. The ascent represents the soul's movement from confusion toward knowledge, showing that genuine understanding requires time, discipline, patience, and the willingness to remain uncertain until the mind can see more clearly. When the former prisoner finally sees the sun, he understands that it gives order, seasons, and life to the visible world. Plato connects this vision with the idea of the good, the highest source of truth, reason, and what is beautiful and right. Knowledge is not only the collection of facts. It is learning to recognize the principle that makes wise judgment and responsible action possible. The good becomes a standard by which both private choices and public decisions can be examined. The person who has seen the light may prefer to remain above, where the soul is free to contemplate truth. Yet the allegory raises a difficult responsibility. Those who understand must return to human affairs. When the philosopher goes back into the cave, his eyes are temporarily weak, and the prisoners may mock him. They may even resist anyone who tries to free them. Knowledge can create distance from ordinary confusion, but it also creates a duty to help others, even when that help is misunderstood. Plato rejects the idea that education simply places knowledge into a blind or empty soul. The power to learn already exists, just as sight exists in the eye. The task of education is to turn the whole soul in the right direction and help it become able to endure the light of truth. Learning is therefore a transformation of attention, character, and desire, not merely the transfer of information. A good teacher helps the learner turn toward what is worth seeing and understanding. Those who are chosen to govern must possess courage, intelligence, generosity, and the discipline to continue learning. They should study philosophy deeply, gain experience in ordinary life, and prove that temptation cannot easily turn them away from justice. After reaching a mature understanding of the good, they must rule not for personal glory, but for the public benefit. Wisdom becomes meaningful when it is placed in service of the community, especially when leadership demands sacrifice rather than applause. The allegory of the cave ends with a challenge rather than a simple answer. We must ask which shadows we mistake for truth. whether we are willing to change our direction, and what responsibility follows knowledge. The journey from darkness to light is gradual and demanding, but it can transform the soul. In Plato's vision, education reaches its purpose when understanding becomes wisdom, and wisdom becomes just action. The final question is not only what we know, but how we use what we know for ourselves and for others.